Hey, what's up, everybody? Been a bit busy, so we've had to take a bit of a step back away from the Fusion Rocket League stuff, but coverage resumes now. We've got day 4 and day 5 coming up next. We're playing catch up today, so starting off with quarterfinal, Envy versus Vision in the 3v3. With them, what ended up happening was it was just Envy was the better team. There's no real easy way to say it, even though Vision kept it close and put up a pretty good fight. I think Ridoku and Kinze as a duo did really well. I talked about during the broadcast how my eyes were pretty much on beast mode and how I wanted him to step up. And he's a prodigy per se. He's a young gun at 14 and the things that he was going to do. And even though he did have some good moments, the majority of it was Ridoku and Kinze. Just trying to go for a bunch of bumps and demos. They definitely can see the difference between the RLCS and the RLRS or bubble teams. And Envy just overwhelmed. I think Reddles is a fantastic addition to Envy. He continues to punish on pretty much everywhere on the field. I don't think he really struggles nowadays and is still one of those players I considered super underrated. But he is making his worth known, and we finally get the matchup of what I've wanted, which is Rogue versus Envy, which we will get tomorrow. Jump into the semifinal match that was played today. That is Space Station versus Affinity, and this one was really close. 3 OTs going the distance. Unfortunate for Affinity, they lost every single OT, but I talked about on broadcast how the big differences between the RLCS teams that are great and the RLCS teams that are good is the ones that are great find ways to win no matter their circumstance. And this is one of those circumstances. Even though Affinity slowly adjusted to the style of Space Station and the aggression, Sipical and the boys ended up being too much. Sipical had a phenomenal performance. Him and Arsenal as a tandem work really, really well. I brought up how the fact that Space Station, after they let go of Sathu, the whole reason is because Sipical and Arsenal were good buddies and they wanted to work together. And we get to see that now after multiple seasons of them playing together. So really excited there. AXB did start off kind of slow. I was a little worried about how passive he was against a team as aggressive as Affinity, and it could create some opportunities. Affinity started to use those opportunities and gave us a really good game 4, but in the end, Space Station looking good, poised to make it to the grand finals and take it all. We then jumped down to the 2v2s with the last quarterfinal for there. It was Stromboli versus Affinity, Alpha Cap and J-Pow versus Magic Bear and Percy. And Affinity's been pretty much dominating everything they do, a lot of it because of Magic Bear and Percy. This match kind of gave us some insight about the 3v3 we're going to see. I entered that with the fact that Magic Bear, great on offense, Percy, fantastic on defense. But Percy and Jordan both had some capabilities and options to actually play some aggression and some hit some double taps and go for some exciting things. But in twos, a lot more space to work with, and I think that's where Magic Bear shines. When Magic Bear has space, he knows how to punish with being that one's mentality, and they showcased it here. Just overwhelming aggression. Even with that said, I mean, pretty close matches here and there, but overall, just Affinity is trending in the right direction. They're doing a lot of things correctly on both sides of the field, offense and defense. Their ability to clear the ball pretty quickly is really nice, but the things that people should be concerned about is more so how they're going to continue to progress into the RLCS as they play better and better rosters, like we saw against Space Station earlier today. There's things that they do that lead them open and weak, but they're learning and they're getting better, which makes me excited. I'm really happy to see that with all these community tournaments that I've just announced, that Affinity is going to be playing through a lot of open qualifiers, which means a lot more practice and a lot more warm-up. And we kind of get to see and learn how they effectively play against RLCS teams and how that translates to playing against some of the open qualifier teams. Is it going to be as dominant? Are they going to stick to the same playstyle? Is it just going to be aggressive the whole time? Or are they going to be able to play the slow and methodical? So there's a lot of things that I'm excited to see how Affinity adapts and evolves, but as of right now, they're going to be moving forward and playing against Vision next, which I think they will surefire win. I think it's going to be a pretty easy win for Affinity in this one too, and we'll see them against Space Station in the finals. Speaking of that, Space Station ended up playing Rogue. I actually didn't get to see a lot of this. I was working on that 300,000 community tournament video that I put out recently. If you guys haven't seen that, make sure you check that out. But from what I've read and from what I've seen from my Discord, a lot of people were talking about how Space Station just manhandled Rogue. A lot of Sipical and Arsenal show. Sipical doing what he does best, which I think he's in terms of best player in North America right now, which it's kind of hard to argue based upon what we've seen lately. But with that said, Rogue did find some opportunities. They had some flashy moments and were able to counterattack here and there. But I think the big thing to pay attention to is on this OT is only taking 4 seconds. So good kickoff from them. First kill and turn throw, the two really heavy and aggressive players. But I'm glad to see that they tried to mix it up. Something that we haven't been seeing enough of, in my opinion, is in these matches, we haven't really seen people take the ability to use their full roster to provide a different look. And probably for the reason, because First Killer and Kenobi lost 3-0. So, unfortunate for them, but Space Station in the Grand Finals. Congrats to them. We'll be getting Vision and Affinity, like I stated, here tomorrow. So a couple days ago, we got the last 1v1 in the quarterfinals. It's First Killer versus Arsenal/Sipical. And there's no real good way to put this, but First Killer is really good and has a very frustrating playstyle. And the hardest thing, I think, is for Arsenal. Game 1, he got smacked. Like, 9-1 is no joke. Game 2, battles back, has a pretty good lead, starts slowly giving it up. First Killer starts playing a little bit more bumpy and demoey and really aggressive and annoying. And then he steals it in OT. So First Killer then takes that one. Immediately the next game, he does it again. The exact same situation. It goes back and forth. This one's probably the closest match out of all of them, neck and neck. And he just can't hold on. So by the end, I'm pretty sure First Killer just started going for like, or not First Killer, Arsenal. Well, Arsenal and First Killer both started going for like freestyles and stuff. But it just, First Killer is a freak on it once. Like, he knows the spacing. He had a really good drift dribble that I'll try to find a clip of.
Italy going to be a little bit easier, or he's got the 1-goal overtime losses. Oh no!
Oh!
Don't!
Oh! Oh! Seeing Kurnobi come out to just show Space Station that, hey, we've actually got a couple players who can beat your guys. That might be interesting to see. But wow, they've always got First Killer to go back to. If it goes wrong, he's just stomping.
We've got 3 minutes now.
There was like moments that you could find from these guys where they were doing specific things that are just like, dude, you're giving yourself space. When you don't have space, you put pressure on it. When you don't have pressure on it, you apply pressure to the other player. I think First Killer's biggest asset is he is very bump and aggression heavy when it comes to the other player's car rather than the ball. He recognizes when the player is in a position to be formidable or go for an attack. First Killer will end up moving forward and bumping that player out of it so he has time to go get the boost and then he can come in. And that's why you don't really see him getting punished for lack of boost and stuff as much, because he knows how to play the player rather than just the ball, which is really interesting to see. If you guys want to watch some reasons why his First Killer is into the RLCS and why he got picked up by Rogue/Ghost, highly recommend go watch his 1v1 series, because you can see him just manhandle another RLCS player. We then jumped into Game 4 where Sipical jumped in, and Sipical did put up a pretty good fight, but eventually it was just First Killer kind of turned it off and just had some fun with him. But yeah, First Killer's really good at once. Who would have guessed? So for tomorrow, the 1v1 is going to be J-Russ versus Lion Blaze. I'm actually not exactly sure who's going to take this one. Between these two, I think they're pretty evenly matched. I think J-Rush does some really good things, while you have the opposite of Lion Blaze, who knows recovery and aggression. He has a very distinct play style. I think they're evenly matched, but I think it's going to come down to how people adjust. Lion Blaze has a very exploitable offense, and I think J-Russ might be able to take advantage of that. So we'll see what happens. So when it came to the semifinals for Rogue versus Affinity, it was First Killer versus Magic Bear. This was the matchup we wanted to see. We were super excited for. But Magic Bear ran into some internet issues, which really sucks. I think he had some bad storms or something going on, so Jordan ended up subbing in. It started off pretty well. If we take a look at the beginning, it was very close. 8-7, 9-7 in favor of First Killer both times. Just able to squeak it out a little bit. First Killer continues to punish and pressure with the things I just mentioned about his playstyle. But overall, I think he has it. You know, that it factor that you can't really explain. And I want to see him play against some of the EU guys like Fairy Peak or Scrub Killer or anybody in that kind of area, Yours and stuff. I want to see him be able to compete against the other high level. Ocala would be fucking sick too. But watching him compete against those players as well, because he's proven that he's like best in North America. But I want to see him compete against across the pond, because right now I don't think there's anybody that can beat First Killer. I thought Magic Bear was going to be able to put up a fight, and he did. But then they ended up subbing in Jordan, and it actually started off pretty well. When I 2'd in, Jordan was able to keep it like 2-1 in his favor, and then I like blinked while I was working on other stuff, and it's like, why is it 6-2? What happened? So, yeah, Jordan just got overwhelmed. First Killer, again, learning to adapt and punish. That's why I think he's going to be the best. Probably calling it right now that he's going to win the finals. But we still got to talk about the other semifinal, which will be tomorrow. This one's kind of a toss-up. I think it goes both ways. Both players have the capability to play consistently. Lion Blaze's offense, I think, is a little bit more exploitable. I think it's going to be up to J-Russ to see on how he adapts. I think he's definitely capable of it. His playstyle, I don't think, is too telegraphed, and he does mix it up a little bit more from what we've seen Lion Blaze. Lion Blaze has been doing what works, so maybe he hasn't had to. I do think this side of the bracket was a good place to be, because the players on this side are all pretty scary, specifically the ones from Rogue and Infinity. But again, whoever faces First Killer in the finals is going to be scared. If I had to guess, Lion Blaze, I think, does a good job of playing his playstyle, and he hasn't really been forced to mix it up. So I still think he's capable of that, hence the position he's in, but we'll see how it plays out. I actually am not sure about this one. I think this one's a coin toss, but I could be surprised when one just comes in and smacks the other one. But should be fun either way. They're going to lose the first killer, so what does it matter? Also, other things to note for the standings, some things that are really important was the fact of where certain people place. Consistent ratings through all queues, 1s, 2s, and 3s, is weighted more heavily than doing really well, like a win in this and like 3, 4, and something else. So because of that, Rogue is up top. They've obviously done well in the 1v1, but they're also doing pretty well in the 2v2 and the 3v3, despite being eliminated from those. Same situation was with Affinity, where they placed pretty well overall. Right now, it's going to come down to Rogue and Space Station. The game between Space Station and Affinity in the 3v3 was pretty much what determined all of it. So despite Space Station actually doing poor in 1v1, they're coming out on top pretty well. So we'll see how it ends up panning out, but make sure you guys keep it up. It all wraps up here soon for North America, so stay tuned. We've only got 2 days left. It's going to do it for the recap, guys. We got more stuff starting at 3 p.m. Eastern, where I'll be casting the 3v3 with Leaf X as we move on. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, as always, make sure you drop them down below and I'll answer what I can. Also, give the video a thumbs up and hit subscribe if you have not already. Make sure to turn on notifications so you don't miss any of the videos. But that's going to do it for us. We are out of here, and I hope you guys have a fantastic day. Peace.